Powerful defense contractors are actively lobbying against UFO disclosure laws in Congress, fearing financial and legal consequences if forced to release UFO-related materials. An interdisciplinary research study on UFOs has just been published on archive.org. Academics are increasingly paying attention. 3 senior Trump administration officials are well placed to find the truth about UFOs and ET life and disclose this to the president and the general public. Egg-shaped UFOs were seen at Area 51 since the 1980s. Significantly, engineers could not break into the captured craft. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the February 15 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. Thanks for coming back. Sorry to say that I still have this nasty cough. I've had it for about 3 weeks, doing all sorts of treatment. And I do want to thank so many of you that have sent in your remedies, your cures. At the moment, I'm drinking honey, ginger, and lemon, which people have recommended. Trying a number of things. It is all definitely helping. This seems to be something that the body's just fighting off. So thank you for your patience as I do fight this off. All right. So today is 1 week out from my next big webinar panel. Every month I do a monthly briefing that is largely for Patreon members. And every 2 months, what I'll do is a major webinar, a panel, and this is where I get to dive deep into some issues. And I think the whole Star Trek future topic is a very important one, and we make the assumption that it's a positive outcome for humanity, and certainly it's what Nordic extraterrestrials have been saying or have been helping humanity work towards that, going all the way back to researchers such as William Tompkins. But is it such a good thing for humanity? So we're going to take a deep look at that in this webinar. George Kavasilis, who's a contactee, and Sarah Breskman Cosmere, who's a QHHT practitioner, and so she's had hundreds of clients talk to her about the future and extraterrestrial contact. So this is an opportunity to look at this whole idea of a Star Trek future. What is the dilemma, and look at it from different angles. So I hope you can join us. If you are a Patreon member, there are discount codes. Patreon members, they get either a 10% discount code, that's for the first tier of membership, or a 20% discount code. So that actually does take the price down quite a bit if you are a solar patron through Patreon. Right, here's a story that I reposted, and this is a story about powerful defense contractors aided by top law firms like Covington and Burling are actively lobbying against UFO disclosure, fearing financial and legal consequences if forced to release UFO-related information. Former Senate Armed Services Committee General Counsel Stephanie Barner authored a legal advisory essentially confirming that corporations hold recovered UFO technologies and are seeking exemptions similar to those granted to the president to keep such materials classified. Defense contractors, including Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman, benefit from secrecy by outsourcing research through other transaction agreements, which bypass standard oversight and legal scrutiny. This arrangement allows corporations to shield classified research from FOIA requests and congressional oversight, maintaining plausible deniability for government agencies. So this is very interesting that these legacy aerospace companies that have got their hands on UFO materials that were given to them by the military for study and reverse engineering purposes, they have established proprietary control over those technologies. And so you have these kinds of agreements like other transaction agreements, which means that corporations can enter into contracts with government agencies and so forth, and that bypasses all kinds of FOIA requests and so forth. So a corporation that has UFO material given to it by the military may be working on a kind of like related project for the military and reaches one of these other transaction agreements, and whatever they're doing is protected from FOIA requests. So this gives us an idea of how these legacy corporations are able to hide their ownership and control and monopoly on retrieved UFO craft material. Now, this is something that is in addition to another concept which I have heard discussed by Dr. Hal Puthoff, where he talks about internal research and development agreements. And this is where, if, for example, say the Air Force captures a UFO, takes it into Lockheed Martin, it says, well, we want you to study this and find out how it works and develop it and so forth. And then they reach an agreement. It's called an internal research and development agreement, which means that, so even though the Pentagon has given the craft over to Lockheed and is paying for the research, because it's an internal research and development agreement, it means that the research is owned by Lockheed. So it's like the military is paying for these aerospace companies to do internal studies on retrieved UFO materials, and the results of those internal studies belong to the corporation, not to the military, which is another way in which everything has been taken out of the hands of the military, out of the hands of executive oversight, and placed into the hands of these corporations. Now, here is an interview I did with Ashton Forbes. And Ashton Forbes, he is someone who really kind of came to prominence when he analyzed a video of a craft having three kind of spherical objects in front of it, and those objects, and that led to the airplane disappearing. So let me play this for you so you can just refamiliarize yourself with it. Let's see. So here you see the craft. This is a leaked video, and Ashton Forbes, believes that it is genuine. You see three orb-like structures surrounding the craft and creating a portal. Now, in our interview, we went through the controversy over whether or not this was a hoax video based on background clouds that had been extracted from someone's kind of personal collection. And what was pointed out, and this is something that's very significant, is that the video was leaked before the cloud footage was made public. So that does kind of like tend to support what Ashton Forbes was saying, that that video is genuine. There was also a letter that Ashton Forbes received where he was told about the background to this video. Now, one of the things that we discussed in our interview were early conspiracy theories from people like the comedian Dick Gregory, and there were others that Ashton mentioned, who said that what had happened was that the MH370 was taken down by one of these major corporations, whether it's the Rothschilds, Carlyle Group, Blackstone Group, because there was a kind of multi-billion, if not a trillion dollar in patent that was at stake, and they took down the plane because it had these 20 engineers or these 20 top scientists who had come up with a radical new design for some kind of semiconductor, which could be used for a variety of purposes. And that one of these major corporations arranged for MH370 to be kind of taken out of the picture, all the passengers and crew removed, killed, or whatever, and that and that way they would get the benefit of the patent. Now, Ashton Forbes came up with another theory that I hadn't heard before, and this is backed up by a letter he received more recently, about 6 months ago. And this letter was that what was in fact happening was that it didn't have anything to do with a patent application that was going to be kind of stolen from the original patent applicants, the scientists, and kind of like, and that a major corporation that had funded it would then own the exclusive patent rights. That what was happening was that these 20 scientists were defecting to China, and that they were going to hand over to China this radical semiconductor invention that would help Chinese technology move ahead in a certain sector very, very quickly. And so what the US military intelligence community did was to arrange for this kind of technology, this portal technology, to be used to transfer the plane from that kind of airspace just before it went to China to Diego Garcia, and that the military intelligence community wanted the Chinese to see it because essentially they wanted to show the Chinese who's the boss when it comes to advanced technologies. That's like, you guys are still trying to catch up to us. This is the kind of technology we have. If you get out of line, this is what we'll do to you and your craft and so forth. So it was really to send a signal. So that's a very original, or quite a different explanation for the whole MH370 disappearance than what I had previously heard. So here's an interdisciplinary research study on UFOs that's just been published on archive.org. Academics apparently are paying more attention now to the UFO topic, although it's hard to imagine any major breakthroughs being achieved by the parsimonious approach taken by academics to the topic. So if we go to the paper itself, you can see that it is definitely a multidisciplinary study. You can count, like, it looks like there's over a dozen, maybe 15 authors who put their names to this research paper. It came out January 27, 2025 on the archive.org website. So it is good that the academic community is paying attention to the topic, but I just can't imagine any academic study making any major breakthrough on the topic, because they are just so exclusively focused on there being sufficiently hard evidence to back any statement that, we can't imagine anything more than just a kind of nuts and bolts approach backed up by lots of empirical data to make out that this particular subject matter is very real and deserves serious academic scrutiny. I still think that we are some way from the exopolitics discipline being taken seriously. It does require for academia to reach that or jump that hurdle about the existence of extraterrestrial life. And once that hurdle's been jumped, then you can talk about exopolitics, relations between our planet and governments with extraterrestrials. But we're not quite there yet. And so ufology, nuts and bolts ufology, that is what academics are typically looking at. Here is a interview with Gene Decode, who has spent over 2 decades in the US Navy on 5 classes of submarines. 4 of them were nuclear. And he has a wealth of knowledge on deep underground military bases, on submarine technology, and also very interesting when it comes to some of the claims by people like William Tompkins and others that the initial Nautilus class attack submarines, that they could be converted into a space vehicle simply by swapping out the turbine propulsion system with some kind of anti-gravity device. And interestingly, he explained how even with a nuclear fission reactor, that would be more than enough power to be able to have a submarine that's been retrofitted with one of these anti-gravity devices to be able to launch out of the water and go out into space. So very, very interesting. Now, in our interview, he talked about the deep state control of many of these dumb facilities, the experiments they've been doing there. We talked about the involvement of batch consignments of human subjects for the Illuminati, for the sacrificial rituals that were happening there, and they were sacrificing young people. I mean, starts with the sea, that they were being sacrificed, and he says that according to his sources and his own kind of like remote viewing and other means by which he gets his information, he says that these dumbs are being cleared out by the Earth Alliance. Right, so here we have a short video clip of 3 senior Trump administration officials who are well placed to find out the truth about UFOs and ET life and disclose that to the president and general public. So what President Trump has done is that he has surrounded himself with people of a like mind. In his first administration, he didn't have people like this surrounding him who would give him the truth. He just assumed that as president, he could ask for something and he would be given the truth. Well, that was not what happened. That now he's learned that in order to get to the truth on any subject, you've got to have your people in control of that department. So here is where we get to look at 3 senior Trump administration officials who are now in positions whereby they can find out and tell Trump the truth about what is going on when it comes to the UFO issue. So let me play that clip from the start. It goes for about 2 minutes.
But it gives us more information. We need to find out when there are, and there very clearly are now, hundreds of unexplained sightings, meaning that there's no natural phenomenon involved, there's no visual disturbance, it's not clutter or debris or birds or anything else, but objects that demonstrate technologies that seem to defy the law of physics and capabilities that we don't have as the world's superpower. You know, our role in the federal government is to provide for the common defense, and we can't do that if someone else has technologies that are better than we have. So all of this is a very, a good development from my perspective, and I'm glad that they're pursuing some of the things that I was pushing as DNI. Your second question with regard to other classified information, I don't want to disclose conversations with former President Trump, but he did want to declassify the documents surrounding the Kennedy assassination, and there was some pushback at different levels, and ultimately he made the decision not to do it at that period of time. But obviously there's a lot of documentation out there of different things that I think the American people deserve to know about.
Yeah.
So I'll just pause it there for a moment. So John Ratcliffe, the former director of national intelligence, who is now the new CIA director, and that's Pete Hegseth, who was a former Fox News contributor there on the right, and who is now the new Secretary of Defense. So Ratcliffe talking about the UAP phenomenon, talking about President Trump's desire to declassify information, including the Kennedy assassination, and that he was simply overruled, or he was convinced not to go down that track. So let's go on and listen to who else.
We need to restore confidence in our institutions, and I think transparency and some truth-telling and treating us like adults and citizens who are in charge of our government as opposed to servants.
Well, that's true.
Work.
So, John, treat us like an adult here. You've seen the intel. It's January 15th in the year 2023. Are aliens real?
Good.
Well, I can't talk to you about, any potential alien life, so I'll just leave it at that.
There you go. What does that answer say?
In my meetings that I've had with many of you, you expressed bipartisan frustration about recent intelligence failures, as well as the lack of responsiveness to your requests for information. Whether it's the surprise October 7th Hamas terrorist attack, to the sudden takeover of Syria by Islamist extremists, failures to identify the source of COVID, anomalous health incidents, UAPs, drones, and more. If confirmed, I look forward to working with you to address these issues.
Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard, who was confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and John Ratcliffe, CIA Director. I mean, these are people who are on the record in terms of saying that they do support disclosure on UFOs and a number of other things. So I think we can have a lot of confidence that at some point Trump will learn from these senior officials that are in his administration what's really going on, and then he can make the decision as the president to to disclose that to the world. Now, here's a story that came out in Britain's Daily Mail, and it talks about a egg-shaped UFO that was seen at Area 51 in the 1980s. So there's a deceased whistleblower, and he describes seeing one of these silver-colored, egg-shaped UFOs at Area 51, and that engineers, using all kinds of sophisticated tools, were not able to break into the craft to see what was inside. And there's also this document that was in the Daily Mail story that is a summary of a witness interview where the witness talked about this incident as it was told to him by his uncle. And so even though this is secondhand testimony, it still is something that was put on the record. So you have the Undersecretary of Defense on letterhead summarizing the circumstances behind this UFO, egg-shaped UFO that was seen at Area 51 in the 1980s, and that the engineers tried to see what was inside but failed to do so. So very, very interesting. All right, so here we have an interview that Jesse Michels did with Dave Rossi. And Dave has a very interesting story. I have interviewed him in the past on Exopolitics Today. I've been talking with him for a couple of years now. And he has a very unique background. And in this interview with Jesse Michels, he describes how Dave Rossi was just a ordinary blue-collar construction worker until he had this life-altering encounter with a blue plasma-like being that awakened him to quantum physics, high-voltage experiments, and hidden potentials of extended electrodynamics. Now, the way Dave described it to me when we did our interview was that all of a sudden he was getting these mathematical equations coming into his head, and that he would share that math with some prominent scientists such as Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, and they recognized the validity of Dave Rossi's theories on various subject matters, whether it's negative energy, inertial mass reduction, and so this was how Dave Rossi kind of like began. And in the interview with Jesse Michels, he talks about various subjects, the blue being encounter, the defense circles taking notice. So that's where Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis paid notice to what he was saying. And then he gets into the physics of these different subjects, longitudinal waves and curving space-time and so forth. It does get a little bit technical, so I'll leave you to watch the video interview. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was that what Dave Rossi shared with me was that these top-level aerospace scientists were actually paying a lot of attention to the work and the revelations of Elena Danaan. And that's very interesting, because why would top scientists be interested in the testimony of a contactee who supposedly has no evidence supporting their claims? Well, they said that they watch closely all developments concerning her. And I think that's because they know that she is really having contact, and that they understand well, unlike a lot of debunkers, that for a contactee to have hard evidence of their contacts is almost like a death sentence. It's like, yeah, you're being taken by extraterrestrials in outer space and you have hard evidence, right? You got photos, you got videos, right? You got that at your home, ready to disclose to the world. And you think that the men in black are going to allow you to have that hard evidence? You don't think they're going to come in and take it? You don't think they're going to come in and abduct you, put you into some hellhole until you tell them where the hard evidence is? I mean, it's ridiculous. This has been a perennial problem with the contactee movement. At best, they can offer a few photos here and there. In the Billy Meyer case in the 1970s, Billy offered, I think it was 800 photos, but still that wasn't enough. There were people that debunked the photos, say, oh, there's a lot of fakes here, we can't accept anything. Here's the other thing that was very interesting, according to Dave Rossi. He said that a private contractor, that is the Aerospace Corporation, they were tasked to run a smear campaign, a discrediting campaign against Elena Danaan. Now, why would a top aerospace company want to do that? Well, that is because they know she really is having these experiences, and that the deep state does not want that information to kind of spread. So I hope Jesse Michels, well, I don't believe he asked Dave Rossi, or they got to discuss Elena Danaan in the interview. If Jesse Michels watches this clip, or someone can recommend him, that he should follow up speak to Dave Rossi, say, well, what did Hal Puthoff and other scientists say about Elena Danaan? Why do they believe she's the real deal? And then I think Jesse Michels should just straight up interview Elena Danaan. That would be great. All right, so that is it in terms of the topics I have slated for the week in review. Again, in 1 week's time, we have the dilemma of a Star Trek future, where I will have George Kavasilis and Sarah Bressman-Cosme on a panel helping me understand fully what the potential of a Star Trek future is and what are the pitfalls. What is it that we have to be aware of as a species before going down this path of just being a full member of, say, the Galactic Federation of Worlds? Is it just straight membership and then therefore we get involved in whatever conflicts are involved that exist galaxy-wide and dealing with the Draco reptilians? Or do we find another way of proceeding forward as a civilization that protects our sovereignty, especially as this is a critical phase? We're really the new kid on the block when it comes to galactic civilization, and to just jump in to a galactic-wide conflict without understanding the full parameters, I think that's something that we do need to tread cautiously. So that's what the webinar panel will be about. Plenty of time to join, discounts for Patreon members. So thank you for watching, and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.